10 before the hour. Fritzy's been working on this all morning long. Justin Rose, the U.S. Open champ, and I finally tracked him down. Justin joins us now. I know you've got a busy schedule, Justin. Thanks for joining us. How much sleep?
Yeah, enough just to get by today, but no more than that. I think I was up till about 5 in the morning. Not all partying. A lot of that was just sort of reminiscing and not being able to fall asleep. I mean, it was just such an incredible day.
What kind of celebration?
Celebration was good. I mean, I was just saying, a local restaurant near the hotel where I stayed open for us, put on a lovely spread, and just sort of, let us just hang out. And, having the U.S. Open as the centerpiece in the middle of the table, made it just a pretty unique evening. And, just a few drinks amongst close friends. And, I only really got out of Merion at about 11 o'clock, so things started pretty late.
What's it like, though, when you wake up as the U.S. Open champ?
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit that it's almost, was it a dream? I looked for the trophy first thing I did, and it was, at the foot of the bed, and it was one of the best ways to wake up I've ever had.
I couldn't help but marvel at 18, and I wasn't sure what was the better shot for you. Everybody talks about the tee shot. I thought when you were behind the green and chipping to get close and you had like 2 inches to the cup, that stood out more, but I wasn't the one hitting the drive on 18. So if you were going to rank the best shots that you had on 18, where would you start with the best one?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, I walked over there. I hit a good tee shot, obviously. I knew it was in the fairway. And then when I walked over the hill, because it is a blind tee shot, when I walked over the hill, I saw my ball sitting there in the middle of the fairway on the upslope near the Hogan plaque. And it kind of struck me that this is my moment. That was such an iconic photograph of him hitting that one iron into the 18th at Merion, and it sort of dawned upon me that this was my opportunity to have that special moment for myself. So I also hadn't hit a good shot into 18 all week. The day before I'd clunked a 4-iron short right of the green, made bogey, and so for me the second shot into 18 was my moment. And I put the ball in a position where, I was pretty comfortable of getting the ball up and down. But as you say about the chip shot, I used a little 3-wood because, at that point your nerves are definitely playing a big factor. And, if you go ahead and you try and chip something with a sand wedge or a pitching wedge, you're bringing potential trouble into play at least. And I could handle the 2-inch tapping, that's for sure.
I've told people who haven't been at Augusta that you'd never forget the roars, that the holes are so close together and you have the trees, like this sound that stays and it's amplified. I'm curious, in the U.S. Open, there weren't many roars with great shots because everybody's sort of playing to par, but did you heard the Phil Eagle chip in, you knew something was a little different with the sounds there that you hear on a golf course?
Yeah, absolutely, because, the 10th hole of Merion where Phil made that fantastic 2 is in the corner of the golf course, and crowds can't really get close to that. And, I made a couple birdies there during the week, and, polite applause was really the response to birdies on that hole. So when I heard that noise coming up from the 10th, I'm like, that's not a birdie. Even for Phil, that wasn't a birdie. And obviously, I sort of was at the same time, I 3-putted 11, so it was a really kind of a key moment in the round, and I was wondering if that was obviously a big momentum shift, but I managed to bounce back with birdies of my own on 12 and 13, which kind of gave me just a little bit of a cushion heading into those tough last 5 holes. But, the crowd were obviously pulling for Phil, and rightly so, obviously, with his sort of, relationship with the U.S. Open, and I could tell what Phil was doing pretty much shot for shot. They were kind of, the crowd were cheering the fact that he hit the fairway at 15, and then it went a little bit quiet for a while there, so I figured that maybe no birdies had been made, and I was just trying to sort of stay in my zone and finish out the round as clean as I could.
He's Justin Rose, the U.S. Open champ, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. How long do you want to wait until you play Merion again?
I'd love to wait until, I guess, the mess of the U.S. Open has cleaned up there. I turned up to Merion a week before the championship started. I played it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There was nobody out there. And I think that was key for me in winning the U.S. Open. I felt like I fell in love with the golf course from, I got really just a good relationship with the course. I set out my game plan without all the distractions of, the thousands of people during practice rounds. And I'd love to go back and reminisce with the course in the same state. Give it a few months for, obviously with the weather the way it was, the course got trampled down pretty badly on the periphery, and just let it get back to perfect shape, and maybe just head up there with my caddy and play a 2-ball and just walk around and reminisce.
We saw this with Webb Simpson and his wife last year as he's in the locker room waiting to see what's going to happen, watching it on TV. You're doing the same with your wife. What's that moment like when you have no control over whether or not you're going to win this? You're a spectator like us.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, golf's such a gentleman's sport that you're not sort of brought up rooting against other guys. You want to sort of win fair and square, and when it's not in your hands, it's definitely more difficult. I felt like I'd done enough walking off the 18th green. I felt like I felt like I'd acquitted myself well, and I felt like I could be proud no matter what happened. So it was nice to be able to enjoy that moment, and obviously to be able to honor my dad in that moment. Being Father's Day was a huge thing for me, and with the U.S. Open playoff being on Monday, I felt like I could relax. It's not like I had to have potentially keep my game face on and go and play a playoff 20 minutes later. So I could let myself go a little bit, but when it's not in your hands, it's certainly it's certainly more nerve-wracking. It makes me feel more for my family watching on TV at home, that's for sure.
Well, it was great. I loved your post-match comments, certainly about your father, and the memory to him. And even if you didn't win the Open, you had that moment where you looked up to the sky and you said, I gave everything I needed to give. This is for you. So thought that was great.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was a sort of proud moment for me.
Justin, thank you for joining us. Enjoy the ride. Hopefully many more for you.
Thanks,
All right. Justin Rose, U.S. Open champ. Great job, Fritzy. Now, what he said about his father, I mean, he had great comments. He lost his dad. I think he was 57, died of leukemia, taught him the game. So, winning on Father's Day. Everybody caught up with Phil Mickelson. Here's Justin, lost his dad.